This is actually a very special presentation because this is a company that is making money in virtual reality. So you're going to want to sit down and tune in very carefully. Okay, now they're going to have to explain the new logo because this is beyond me. So first thing, to my immediate left, Derek Downey, Brian Jesse. These are the co-founders of a company called Immersed Arcade. You've seen their logo, on our Switch slides. These guys have been instrumental in making the immersive technology exhibition possible downstairs. We got the equipment. They were very helpful in bringing all the content and helping supervise all the stations so that the patrons of the Ontario Science Centre could enjoy virtual reality safely. And they just put on a wonderful experience to really exemplify our industry and our market. So please, let's give them a warm round of applause. As I mentioned, these guys are making a living. So they're going to talk about how they're making a living in virtual reality in the out-of-home entertainment market. So take the stage, gentlemen. They're all yours.
Sounds good. Hold my notes up here, please. Start a timer to make sure we don't ramble. All right. Hi, I'm Derek. I'm CEO of Immersed Arcade and now VR League, which we'll get into that. This is kind of a disaster and brain confusion at this point since, Immersed Arcade presenting VR League. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, I forgot there's the microphone. Thank you. So I'm CEO of Immersed Arcade,
and I'm Brian Jesse. I'm CTO of Immersed Arcade and VR League.
Yeah, so we're co-founders. All right, so today we have a little presentation for you. We're going to start, kind of go in chronological order here. We're going to start with Immersed Arcade, then we're going to move into the industry, as in the VR arcade industry specifically. Kind of current state of affairs of where that is. We're going to move into VR League, which is our newest venture, and then we're going to kind of end with the future, right? Because that's how chronological time works.
So this all kind of starts with me. I'm a developer. I've been part of the startup scene since 2012. That's back when I was working for Wolfram Alpha as a software developer. And since then, I've worked with startups through various stages of funding, acting as a consultant and a software architect for many of them. And as a developer, I've been following VR for many years, and I really want to get my hands on a Vive, but it's fairly expensive. So here's me a couple of months ago, it's very expensive to get a Vive, and I'd like to have one. And so I realized fairly quickly that the arcade model of the early 80s and late 70s was finally relevant again. The idea being that instead of me going out and buying equipment, what if I could go to an arcade and share that with other people, share the expense with other people?
So then this is where I came into play. I've known Brian for about a year and a half or so, and he had this idea. He's very entrepreneurial minded. It's kind of funny how we're almost like polar opposites where, so I'm currently a full-time professor for Illinois State University. I got my undergraduate in arts technology, and I got my master's in communication. Brian dropped out of college to pursue the startup world as a web developer, making more money than me, because that's how it works, being a developer. But so he had this idea, and I decided to sit down with him. He wanted to do a Kickstarter for maybe we could raise funds to build the arcade. So I sat down with him, and we were coming up with ideas, and then after I sat down with him, I'm like, this could actually really work. Like this could be a cool idea. I really think he's onto something here. So I was planning on getting my PhD. My dream was to be a professor, tenured professor, and I don't have a terminal degree yet. And then I was like, well, I could get my PhD at any point. That was my summer goal, was to apply to PhD programs. But instead I decided I could do that later. This is a very right now thing. I decided I had all my summer free since I teach. So Brian and I decided to go full force into Immersed Arcade. So that's what came out of this. So Immersed Arcade, basically we opened on June 14th. That was the day we were going to launch our Kickstarter, but we ended up just deciding we were going to do a Kickstarter, but then we already owned the equipment. we were like, why don't we just open up for business and then start taking appointments instead of waiting for the month to end and then we would get our funds for a Kickstarter. So yeah, we opened on June 14th. Basically, we had a mobile setup and a location. So we would bring our VR equipment, our Vives, out to the local public library, local Children's Discovery Museum, local businesses, everywhere. We do it for free most of the time and just promote VR. One of our main visions, our main goals, at like the second meeting when we sat down, we're like, what are we really trying to do with this? And the main vision was bring VR to as many people as possible. Bring VR to the public. And we were saying that before we had even tried VR. And then we like got the Vive and tried it, and we're like, oh, it's awesome, thank goodness. But so in terms of the logistics of the arcade, we did, as you can see here, we got about, we have 4 different booths here. We were located right above a restaurant bar, so they could buy food and drinks down at the bar and then bring it up, which was nice for us. We didn't have to have a liquor license. It was the bar there. We have the 4 different setups. You reserve the time for the headset, so we did $30 per hour. It wasn't per person or anything. That was you rent it for the hour. You could bring as many people as you want. You could rotate out. You could pick whatever games you want. Anything like that. This is a birthday party that we had going on. You could also see we have Twitch streaming on TVs and things like that. Yeah, so really what it comes down to is that our major market was parents and kids, definitely. And we weren't really planning for that necessarily. We're from a college town. We were thinking college students would be there. But it was the parents and the kids that kept coming over and over. So in July alone, we had 2 headsets that we were renting out for $30 per hour. And in July we made $7,000 just between Brian and I with the 2 headsets for $30 an hour. And we were like, wow, this actually is going to work. So really what I wanted to tell you guys is that this works and this is going to continue working. This model, now granted, this summer, when it came August and September, we went down a little bit because the kids were back in school. But it is, that was very bootstrapped. We spent about, $5 grand we did about $10,000 within just our savings. We didn't get a loan, we didn't get investors.
Completely bootstrapped.
Just completely bootstrapped it, and then we were able to get that operational.
Yeah,
so,
made back our complete initial investment.
Yeah. So it works, it's coming. Pay attention to it, really, is what I want to say. So the industry. So we're going to talk about the VR arcade industry. So really, one thing we noticed is everything is kind of isolated and nobody's really collaborating and there's a lot of different messy parts that everyone's operating on their own. We thought this was kind of a humorous example of, nothing's on fire at this point, but things aren't perfect and it's just like, we don't really know what to do. This is fine.
Everything's a mess, but there's opportunity there. Opportunity for improvement. That's fine.
So there's opportunity everywhere, but it's all very messy right now. And from what we've seen, just jumping into this industry in the past few months.
So just this week, Citibank analysts told CNBC that they believe that the VR AR industry as a whole will be worth a combined total of $1 trillion by 2035.
Everybody here, we're all in the VR world here, we all keep hearing that statistic. There's tons of money in there, and it's coming. It's not here yet, but it's coming. But we're actually seeing it start to happen here. So now we're talking about the VR arcade as a whole, the VR arcade industry as a whole. One of our main things is that we've been developing relationships with all the different arcades throughout this entire process. We've been helping them out. They've been helping us out, and we've just been developing friendships. So Control V, has anyone in here been to Control V at all? All right, here we go. Got like 6 or 7 people. Still have yet to go. They're on the drive back, so hopefully
it's just like an hour drive away. You should absolutely go there.
So Control V is the first VR arcade to open in North America. They opened on June 1st. We're the first one to open in America. We opened on June 14th, so we were two weeks behind them. And the CEO, Ryan Brooks, had the same exact epiphany Brian did, that the arcade model was going to be relevant. He just had it about 3 or 4 months before Brian did. And so then he had been working full force at it. We're the example of the bootstrapped kind. It's just Brian and I. They're an example of they spent 6 months planning this out, and they opened with 16 headsets. And
a complete user interface that they developed in-house to make it easier for first-time users.
Yeah, first-time users can select the games themselves. They can they have all video tutorials for everything. Meanwhile, Brian and I are just kind of explaining things to our customers. So an example of, again, the successful model, within the first 3 months, they did 5,300 one-hour appointments. Now that's just 1-hour appointments. That doesn't count for, multiple hours or parties or half hours or anything like that. And they charge about, I think it's $20 per hour. So within 3 months, that's what they make back. So yeah, they're doing well for themselves. On top of that, they have just recently expanded into a Cineplex. They have multiple things in the works that they're starting to flare up all over. Another example of people we're good friends with here now. These people that we've become friends with throughout this process. VR Junkies. They're based out of Orem, Utah. Not exactly sure where that is, to be honest. But so they opened up in a mall. They said they hate marketing. They realize how hard it is to market and to advertise. So they just went somewhere where there's heavy traffic already. So they've been profitable from the start. They were set to make back their investment within 2 or 3 months of everything they put into it. And as of today, they have a second location open in Salt Lake City, and they have 3 more locations that are opening very soon, like within the next month or 2, in New York, New Mexico, and Minnesota. So they are expanding, and they're growing, and everybody's getting offers from investors, right? Everyone kind of sees money in this area. So aside from just those 2, as of right now, a conservative estimate is that there's at least 20 VR arcades. We know for a fact that there's the Virtual Reality Standards Board, which we'll talk about, has a listing of 18 currently open and operational arcades, and that was put together maybe a month and a half ago. So honestly, there's probably more like 30 arcades open, but there's at least 20 VR arcades open today. And with, so one thing is that we say, well, there's this major threat. Are arcades going to be relevant when it hits the consumer market, when it's finally cheap enough for people to afford it and to bring it to their home? Well, honestly, yes, that is very much a threat, but also space. I set up one of our Vives at my neighbor's recently, and he has this TV in the spot, and trying to play paintball with that, I just know that there's a TV on one side. I don't know which side. So having that reassurance that there's space, there's a big open space, that could potentially keep this arcade model still relevant, along with the fact that keeping up with the expensive equipment, but also multiple Vives. So if you want to play with 5 people, 6 people, so you might have 1 Vive headset, but what's the chance that you're going to have 4 or so, 4 or more? This is a place where everybody can go, play together, get out of the headset, have a drink, hang out, do whatever they want. So VR arcades, we don't know if it's going to stick around, if it's a very short-term model. We know that very immediate future, it's going to be successful. 5 years from now, is it going to be relevant still? We don't know. But there's arguments, I would say, that it could still be relevant, and there's arguments that it could be obsolete. So if you want to talk about some of the problems.
Sure. So, from our experience, what we've seen, at least from some of the other arcades that are opening, and some of the problems that we've had to deal with ourselves, initially, content licensing. Working with the developers to actually get commercial licensing for these experiences that we want to share with our patrons. We have to actually go out, reach out to each one of these developers individually. Initially, we had reached out to Valve, and they set us up with the first site license program for the Vive, and that has been awesome, but it doesn't solve a lot of the commercial licensing, third-party commercial licensing problems that we've been having.
So basically one of the main issues here is that we need to draw up legal documentation for the game developers. We'll reach out and say, hey, can we use your game at our arcade? And they're like, yeah, sure. Could you send over a contract? Because these are indie game developers that are just a handful of people working on it that don't have a legal team ready to make legal documentation all the time. So we've now since developed our own documentation from all the people we've worked with, but anyone who starts their own arcade, there's no standard for this. There's no place for us to go to do that. But one of the main issues that is, one of the most prevalent issues right now is that of those 20 plus arcades, it's likely that about 80% or more is operating without getting commercial licenses. Meaning they're just buying games from Steam and then they're charging people to play it.
Imagine, movies have just become a thing, and theaters are popping up all over the place, and the people running the theaters are just going out to the store and buying a DVD. And then they're running that whole theater off of one DVD. That wouldn't be very good for the people who are making the movie. Wouldn't be good for the people doing all the special effects. And so we definitely wanted, from the beginning, to help support the fledgling VR industry and pay our good share of that.
Yeah, so starting a movie theater that just, you buy DVDs and then start charging people for tickets, that's essentially what's happening. And the reason we say that we think about 80% or more is not operating legally is because they're advertising things like Google Tilt Brush. And Google will not let any arcade use Tilt Brush in their arcade.
Commercially.
They refuse to. Hey, what's up?
How is that going to be enforced?
We'll get to that.
There's probably, they say there's 2,000 arcades in China or something, right?
Right.
Who's it? Okay, so if 80% of everything, who's enforcing it, and what are the repercussions, and at what point who's...
The answer is nobody right now. Nobody is enforcing this right now.
So if we follow this movie theater analogy of you buy DVDs, you go buy Cinderella, and then you start showing it in your house, and then you charge people tickets for it, right? Who's going to come down on you? Mickey Mouse. Disney is going to come down on you hard, and you're going to regret doing that, all right? But now if you're doing this with indie games that are 3-people teams, 10-people teams, they're not going to come down on you, and you're doing it across all the different game developers. There is no legal body that is going to punish you for it. And we've reached out to HTC, we've reached out to Valve, we've reached out to everybody trying to say, like, hey, this is a major issue. We can't compete with arcades that are doing this and not getting commercial licenses.
Yeah, not only is it unfair, but it's actually illegal
to
be using this content without permission.
It's just, we have to charge more for our customers because we have to pay more for each gameplay experience. Yeah, so basically, as you can see, commercial licensing this has been one of the core issues that we've worked with Control V, VR Junkies, and all the people who are doing this legitimately. We're trying to figure out how to solve. But some other problems here.
So hygiene was something that we thought about from the very beginning. What we're doing right now is we're using hypoallergenic wet wipes. Definitely not baby wipes.
Yeah.
Baby wipes are for babies' bums. That's from our friend Kevin Williams, who invited us to Neil's podcast.
Just remember, baby wipes are for babies' bums.
Yeah.
If you take nothing else from this,
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah, you absolutely have to have something that's going to kill the bacteria and viruses on there. And the hypoallergenic part comes in for people with sensitive skin. And yeah, we definitely don't want people breaking out of their eyes.
Promotion and marketing. What is VR? Nobody knows what VR is. You know, we're in our location. People walk by. They'll be like, "Hey, you know, we got a VR arcade in here." They're like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. I don't know what virtual reality is." And it's really hard to explain it. So this is just one of the issues that we have. And moving on to supervision within the arcade industry. Yeah.
Supervision along with cable management. It's a very labor-intensive job. You have to keep watching somebody. Get somebody else into VR while you're watching the other person and make sure that they're not tripping over themselves. One of the major issues that we found is actually people thinking they can lean on things in VR. So that's the major thing that people are falling because of. It's not the cable, they're trying to lean on the counter and shot simulator.
It's funny, but it's also horrifying because they fall hard when you go to lean on something and there's nothing there. But the labor-intensive part, I mean, Mihai is here, and anyone else who's helped us run the headsets downstairs, you gotta watch them the entire time.
What's the ratio of supervisors to clients kind of thing?
We try to go for a 1-to-1 right now.
For us personally, but with the VR standards board that we're getting into, they do 4-to-1. So we'll, 1 to 4, one person for every 4 booths or so. Choice of experience, yeah.
So currently, a lot of the games are actually really motion sickness inducing. We went through a lot of titles before we opened shop, just making sure that we curated all these experiences. Derek here, he is very susceptible to the motion sickness problems, and I'm not. So I was through a shotgun approach, checked everything, and then, hey Derek, does this work for you? And, yep. So part of this whole thing, wrapping it up, is these are the problems that the Virtual Reality Standards Board is trying to solve. All of these problems.
Shout out to Bernie.
There he is.
Bernie is one of the advisors.
One of the advisors.
Yeah. So Ryan Brooks from Control V has helped establish this nonprofit organization. Basically, we get to look at arcades and we get to see, do they measure up to all these different standards, and then we will give a seal of approval saying, yes, as a developer, you should operate with this arcade because they meet all of these standards. If they don't have this seal of approval on their website, then that's up to you if you want to deal with them. So moving into VR League is incorporating the VR Standards Board into our league. But what is VR League? Good question, right? So, your VR esports network. VR League is, we took a step back. We've been operating for about 4 months as an arcade. What are we going to do? Are we going to continue pursuing our arcade route? Are we going to go mobile events? Are we going to go franchising? What we've decided is our main strength is that we have connections in the entire industry. We are the first, I don't know if we still are, but we were the first search result for a virtual reality arcade anywhere in the world. If you Googled virtual reality arcade, Immersion Arcade was #1, which is awesome because my business partner is a web developer, SEO guy, so he made that happen. Because of that, we've been reached out to by all the different arcades that are like, hey, we're already open, we'd like to be friends, or hey, we're open and we had some questions, or hey, I'm looking to open an arcade and I had some questions. So I have a folder of about 50 different emails that I've gotten from different people all around the world about that. So what we're going to do is now we're going to create a competitive gaming league between all of the arcades. We're gonna take this kindling industry and we're gonna fan the flames, and then we're gonna link them all together so that we can have competitive gaming tournaments between everything. So these are just some of the people that we have involved. Control V, that VR joint, is a VR arcade in Melbourne, Australia. Virtual X is opening in Lima, Peru. VR Junkies is in Utah, they're expanding. Immersion, that's us. So those are VR arcades, but then we have Space Pirate Trainer, Brookhaven, and Rec Room. And those are all those are actual games, those aren't the game companies that make it. iLusion, Phosphor Games, and Against Gravity. Did anybody get a chance to play paintball downstairs with the Rec Room? Yeah, isn't that so good? That's social VR. So that's Rec Room. That is one of the companies that is way on board with this VR league. They're definitely interested in having competitive tournaments. So we got that. Then we have Infiniscene, who is a streaming support company.
We can combine streams from multiple locations using their software into a single Twitch stream.
So VR League is not just arcades, it's a whole network of everybody who could benefit and who is relevant in a competitive gaming league. So this is the world. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. So we put together a list of all the different arcades. So these are either arcades that are already currently open and operational, or will be open by about January of 2017, January, February. And these have all, we have an arcade on every continent except for Antarctica. Working on that now. Every continent that wants to compete in VR League, and it's expressed interest to us, and it said yes, let us get involved. So I don't even know how many pins are there, but this is just going to keep growing. And the longer, the bigger we grow our network, the more people that we're gonna, or the more that join, the more that are gonna want to join.
Where are the Canadian ones?
So we have, we just got an email yesterday that someone is opening in Waterloo. Someone said they're going to open in Winnipeg. We have,
Is that Calgary?
Sure.
Yeah, there is one. There is one.
There's one in, I went through my email list of all the different
These are the
arcades.
ones that have reached out to us specifically
Yeah.
for the virtual reality.
So, alright, yeah. So, if you want
So the arcades are getting a lot out of this. And it's actually, so training is an important aspect of the virtual reality league. You're going to have customers that are coming back a bunch to work on improving their game so that then they can compete better
So this is why it's beneficial for arcades to join a competitive gaming league. By being part of a league, all of a sudden, and we saw this because we already put together one of the tournaments last month. You're not just having customers come in and play games, you're having customers come in and train over and over to get to be the best at longbow and to rank 190th in the world.
yeah, and you get media exposure out of that also. People are going to want to see winners and watch the tournament streams and stuff like that. And then this all cycles back around to innovation. So the developers get to see how the competitors use their product, and then they get to improve it, and then it comes back around again. So that's what VR League is.
Yeah, so the three main aspects here, so this is us how we, we're hoping to solve all these issues. We're not going to let arcades into the VR League unless they're approved by the Virtual Reality Standards Board. We're trying to help arcades benefit, we're trying to help developers benefit, we're trying to help the players benefit. And by making sure everybody is approved by the VR Standards Board, we ensure high quality experiences, we ensure that the developers are actually getting paid and compensated for their work, and then we give the arcades something to work towards. So we basically have three aspects of VR League. We're gonna create tournament tools. This draws on all of our strengths of everybody on the team. He's creating tournament tools. He's the developer guy. And then we're going to arrange international tournaments between all the arcades, and then we're also going to create YouTube content. So to start with the tools.
The first tool we're going to construct is the leaderboard system. Right now, if you want to keep track of all of your patrons' scores, they're individual on each computer, each instance of the game. So you have to be able to combine all of those data streams into a single data source. And the plan is to build a highly scalable infrastructure to run on all of these arcades. And we're going to do this through a developer-friendly API. We're going to let developers at no cost push their data to our servers, so then the venues can pull that data back out and show who's the top in their area, as well as see how the competition stacks throughout the globe. In addition, we're going to make an open source protocol so that the transmission of the data can be sent to any other stream, data source. Between arcades to other display connections or whatever. And this is all done through a highly scalable 24/7 availability scalable infrastructure.
And we plan to basically allow arcades to subscribe to that service. Yep?
Are we going to solve the latency problem? It's all competitive VR international.
We are not actually sending VR data over the network. It is just like match data, score data.
Statistics at the
Statisticals, yeah.
So the leaderboard, we're gonna allow arcades to do a per machine subscription cost. We're gonna keep it low because we want to encourage the startup scene. But it's going to be a very helpful tool. If we have six machines, and we have Space Pirate Trainer going, then the leaderboard is going to be different on every single one of those machines. And if we could instead have a computer that has, this is all of the scores. That's basically what the goal is there. And it's 100% automated. After the round's over, it just is sent to your online server and everything. So the arcade owner doesn't have to do anything. They just pull up the different leaderboards. The second thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be arranging the actual tournaments. So we arranged the first ever International Inter-Arcade Tournament on September 2nd. This was between Control V VR Junkies and us. You can see here, this is a clip of our Space Pirate Trainer section. Basically, we did an 8-hour event, 2 hours per game. We had 3 of the top players from each arcade compete over the course of the 2 hours to try and get the highest score. And Immersion Arcade won. Excuse me about that, sorry. And so basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be handling all of the things that are the nitty-gritty work for the arcades. We're going to be promoting the tournament. We're going to give out promotional materials that they can promote. We're going to be doing the commercial licensing. We're going to make sure that the developers are on board with us using their game. We're going to be arranging the prizes. And we need help with sponsors who want to sponsor our events, anyone in the audience, and help us, get us capital of some sort that we can offer as prizes. We're going to bring commentators on, so it's not just boring watching screen captures of things. We're going to provide streaming support. We're starting with Infiniscene, so as you can see, we had Utah, Canada, or Waterloo, and then Illinois, all streaming live at the same time with competitors competing all at the same time. And this was just an experiment. Really, it would be like a whole show of like cutting between arcades and everything like that. So we're going to start with that. We're going to move, our goal is to move into mixed reality streaming support. And then eventually move into the actual virtual reality streaming support. So you can watch it in VR and be at the event. And then the last aspect is content. Basically, we've partnered with Heroic Age Studios, a major production company up by us. They have tons of crazy equipment. They have a Red Epic Dragon, if you guys know that, like a $50,000 camera. And they've got one of the largest
white sites
things.
Yeah, you can park a car in front of this thing.
Yeah, well, and it's insane. So they have a lot of things. They just finished building their own YouTube studio, and we're partnering with them. So we're going to be, basically what we're going to do is what I'm responsible for. We're going to release all of the trade secrets we have learned, all the experience we've learned of running an arcade. And we're going to just give it out for free so that we can continue to grow this community, so we can encourage startups to get into this VR arcade sector. So that'll be coming in the immediate future, as in early to mid-November. We're going to start releasing content regularly, and we're really going to become a voice for this sector, but we're also going to just become a hub to bring the sector together.
So in the future, what we're seeing is
VR venues, so Duncan Trussell Family Hour is one of my favorite podcasts of all time. I don't know if anybody knows about it. And it's a very niche thing. He did his first ever podcast in virtual reality in alt space. I got to see it. He did it for an hour. Afterwards, he was like, all right, show's over, but we got an after party happening. So the guys at alt space have built me a medieval tavern. So 100, 200 people all go to this medieval tavern, and we have a blast. And he's like talking, answering questions, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, you want to see something cool? And he goes and grabs swords and just starts like hitting all of the audience members, right? So we all grab swords, and we all start sword fighting, and we're all just dying laughing. And he's like, I always wanted to slay my fans after a show. He said that, right? What I wanted to do is I wanted to sell tickets to that podcast. Unfortunately, we had a bachelor party at our arcade during that exact time. But that's what's coming. These VR arcades aren't just going to be for games. It's going to be for venues for live performances. Podcasters are getting into the virtual space. The arcades can sell tickets for the show, give a cut back to the performers, give a cut back to the developer of the program they're using, and bring in these live shows. As well as augmented reality. I mean, they say with Leap, I know we're running out of time here, we got the Magic Leap. They say that there's lighting issues, right? Because you don't know where the light source is, and the shadows are weird. An arcade could provide a standardized space for that. So at least in the beginning stages of augmented reality, once it hits the market, I think that the arcade, as in a standardized space, that has standardized lightings and standardized rooms and everything, that will be relevant in the short term. So, yeah, more than just arcades, becoming venues. Yeah.
So as a developer, I see this emerging VR internet. I think there's several people working on it at the moment. There's, I think Linden Lab, the founder, has gone out and started his own thing. But what I really am looking at is the sort of repercussions of that. Nobody right now really knows how to design interfaces. So we're going to see experts created all over the world for this new emerging field. And we're going to see an incredible number of human social activity taking place in virtual reality. So imagine standing in the World Series, or the World Cup, or the Olympics, and you could spectate in a manner that is indistinguishable from a first-hand experience. You can stand next to your heroes while they claim victory. The heroes of the next generation are going to be made famous by these Twitch streams and these VR streams and YouTube videos. And you're going to see high school students growing up wanting to follow in the footsteps of those heroes.
So really, that's it for us. Ethan was going around taking photos, so some of you might be on here. But Neil, thank you so very much for inviting us out to this and having us on your show. And yeah, thank you, everybody.
I want to thank our team specifically.
Yeah.
Ethan and James for coming out to help out. They've been phenomenal. All volunteers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, volunteers have really stepped up. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want a t-shirt. So yeah, we're going to open up for questions. Yes, we'll get you a t-shirt.
Alright!
Yes.
So you mentioned content licensing, like in the movie industry, it's been around for like hundreds of years, so there's like a standard for like how much fee you pay to the producers. But like for VR, like how do you decide that, and what is it?
So right now, it's kind of just the content developers themselves actually deciding what the fee is.
Yeah.
And actually, if you've ever heard of the company Weaver, VVR, and you could pronounce it either way, they're producing a content delivery platform called Transport. And the developers are just kind of choosing what the split is on that and how much it costs. So what we'd like to see is sort of more of the marketplace sort of deciding that rate. So whatever games are doing well, get priced higher. Whatever games are doing not as well would be priced lower, essentially.
And there's 2 points. We were doing a flat rate model because we don't have game tracking software. Control V and VR Junkies are doing pay per minute of use. So we do an agreement with the game developer, and we say, all right, your game was played 47 minutes, and we charge we give you 10 cents per minute of gameplay. So those are the two standardized models as of right now. But yeah, in the beginning, the price, they were just kind of calling it. Like, we were paying $1,000 per headset per year for some games. And they were like, why did we do that? Yeah. Yep.
People sign a kind of disclaimer in case they trip or something.
Yep. Waiver. We took a laser tag waiver that's approved by an insurance agency, just found and replaced laser tag with virtual reality gaming. Yeah. Right? Yep.
Oh yeah, we have over a 20% return rate on our customers.
And other arcades have a higher rate, yeah.
What do you guys think about the experience centers like Floyd or the arcade and development?
I would say that they're more like attractions. What we're really going for is the return customer market, and for something like that, you're going to have the time for turnaround on the experience is probably going to be several months, I would imagine. And what we're trying to do is get as many experiences into eyeballs as possible.
And that's one of the strengths we have compared to them. They have an awesome immersive experience, but they have to develop a very specific experience. Meanwhile, we get to work with indie game developers, and we can bring 10 different experiences in 1 month. Yeah.
Speaking of getting as many people as possible to see, do you know of any arcades that are using like projection? So instead of one headset, they're projecting the virtual reality instead of a dome or something?
Not currently. I've seen like the racing simulators with the whole steering wheel and everything.
No,
Yeah.
that sounds interesting.
Headset costume when it comes out, probably you can have very quickly. Do you guys think about exit strategy?
If we can think about what?
Exit strategy. Oh, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of investors that have been interested in buying into this kind of stuff.
And we've had other big arcades offer to get us absorbed into that thing already and stuff, but we're going to stick with VR League and see where it goes from there.
I think what he meant was like, what if 2 years from now, it's like $10 to buy a buy?
That totally works in our benefit with VR League. That would be awesome.
That's a long term.
Yeah, VR League, we're starting with the arcades, but we're not just planning on sticking with the arcades. We're just going to be...
Yeah, it'll come into the home and spectators in VR and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Have you run into any specific problems with insurance and also with the communities, because I know arcades were always regarded as a den of iniquity and sin. Push back on that side.
Yep, I mean, we've been, our major market has been parents and kids.
Yeah, lots of parents, lots of kids. They love
Lots
it.
of cupcake frosting. all
Birthday
over.
parties, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so not yet.
Yeah.
But what about insurance? The insurance company?
Insurance hasn't been an issue at all. Actually, I feel like we don't pay enough for our insurance because it's really low.
But we
Let's keep it
have,
there.
we have technology covered and up
Yeah.
to $2 million of injuries and everything.
It's
So.
not an issue.
The insurance company that insures us also insures gun ranges. So,
Yeah, so we're all of the liabilities.
yeah.
Okay, one more question. Let's see
So
who's
you-
getting a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so are you communicating back to indie developers in the way that, like, are there things you would like indie developers to know that you're going to produce games for arcades, you should take these things into consideration?
Ease of entry into the game. That is huge. Being able to control some of the experience from the outside. One of the games, Audio Shield, that we were demoing, usually, I feel like in this build it's been broken, but usually we can have the user pick the song on the outside, and then they get in and it's immediately the experience. So since these are first time users, we want to gradually bring them into that. And no buttons. If there's no buttons, people get it immediately. Job Simulator has one button, and kids pick up on that right away.
Yeah, we have a lot of things we have to tell the arcades because they'll be, or the developers, because they'll make it and it'll be, yeah, you can learn how to play it in 15 minutes. But we're doing 4-minute demos downstairs. They have to know how to play it in 20 seconds. And they say, yeah, we're keeping in mind, we're going to build an arcade model version, but it doesn't work. So we do give a lot of feedback, and
having no
at this
menus
point,
is
it's
great,
not, none of the arcades are tailored towards it, and it's a really difficult part. There's a lot of repetition for us to try and explain it and try and hone our explanation of it. Thank you. Yeah.